Do you think that Michelangelo's David, the big hunk of a man standing in the museum in Florence, got that way by eating porridge? No way. It was Bistecca Fiorentina. And you stay with me in my Tuscan kitchen and I'll show you exactly how. Buongiorno, benvenuti. Welcome to my mangiafagioli kitchen. Mangiafagioli, that's what the Tuscans are called. And they're called that because bean eaters, because they eat a lot of beans. And let me tell you, I would sit at any time at their table with some beans and a great bistecca fiorentina such as this. And we'll get to that, but let's start with the beans. Here I have actually soaking overnight, and I'm going to drain them now, cannellini beans. Now, cannellini beans are the beans that are used in the Tuscan cuisine an awful lot. They're wonderful because they're very soft skinned and they have a lot of pulp. So let's drain them. And when you cook beans, you don't put salt when you're cooking them. The salt gets added at the end because salt will really keep them hard. So let's put cold water. For that matter, you can put even hot water. It's not. And you put just enough water to cover them, and to cover them about an inch. I'm going to put some fresh rosemary. Rosemary is another one of those herbs that the Tuscan really use an awful lot. Some olive oil. You seal it tight, and you bring it to a vigorous boil, and then you simmer and let them simmer. And you put just enough water that when they're finished cooking, all the water will be just about absorbed by the beans in the cooking. At that point, we will address the salt and the condiment. Let me check the beans. I think they're perfect. Just a little underdone. I'm going to shut off the fire. Add salt. Now you remember we didn't put any salt at all. At this point is where the beans are going to finish cooking and they're going to absorb in the salt and the flavors. I put some rosemary before, but the freshness of the herbs as you put them later really comes out. So I'm going to put whole sprig sort of, and I'm going to put olive oil, an abundant amount of olive oil because you're not going to do any other condiment to them. Stir them and let them just sit here, steep. The beans will absorb in the salt, the oil, the rosemary, and they'll be just the way the Tuscans like it. For that matter, I like it. Now, you want to know what the beef is? The Italian beef right here in Tuscany, in Firenze, Bistecca Fiorentina. Some hunk of meat. This is what you would know as a T-bone steak, where you get the filet in the inside and the steak on the outside. And this is what a Bistecca Fiorentina is called. It is always served thick like this. It is always sliced, set back on the bone, and I'll show you, and served at the table. This is not certainly a one-person portion. Now the Italians, and I'm going to begin to sort of just trim a little bit and put it on the fire because as you can see, it'll take a while. Now I don't want to take too much fat off because this is a large piece of meat. It will have to stay on the fire a substantial amount of time, and you don't want it to really scorch on the outside. No condiments on the steak on the outside, just like this plain right on the grill. In Tuscany, most households have an outside grill. Grilling is very traditional. All of the restaurants have an outside grill. So grilling in Tuscany is really very, very traditional. Okay, I'm going to put it together. And the tail, they always leave the tail also. It's together because it somewhat protects the filet. So let's put this baby right on the fire. And just like that. Now, this grill, you know, I get a lot of email from you saying, Lydia, what's that behind you when I'm cooking in the kitchen? And this is a wonderful grill. I actually brought it from Italy, and I had this enclosure built. It's a fan, and it's a freestanding grill and a rotisserie also. The fire is sort of lit in the back. There's no direct burning fire underneath the meat because, you know, if you put oil or if you burn the fire directly, you sort of kindle the fire directly, there's all that smoke, and the meat really becomes sort of encrusted with that smoke. This way, always make your fire away. If you don't have this, put it on the side, and then just sort of push the coals underneath your meat over. It is also wonderful because I can control, I can lower it or make it higher, or whatever temperature that I want. It has a spit, and I can grill birds on it and chicken and so on. So this will take a while. We'll watch it. Let me go back and make a rub. You figure you just put the steak there. It really has no seasoning. I know it's a good piece of meat, but where do you get the flavoring and the seasoning? They make, the Tuscans, the Fiorentini, actually make a rub. And the rub is made out of, and we'll make it right here in the mortar, anchovies, let me sort of just helping myself a little bit, getting a head start. Coarse salt. And you want the coarse salt because you want a little bit of the friction to really break everything up. And rosemary. You know, so I asked myself, where does this tradition of eating such a big steak only in Tuscany, only in Florence come from? Well, Tuscany and Florence was loved by everybody. So many tourists there. But it's specifically by the English. So much so that if you go there today, there's a whole section on the southwest of Florence into Chianti that's called Chiantishire, mind you, Chiantishire. So I guess that the tradition did come down with the English and their love for big pieces of meat and raw meat. And when something is good, it's good. You could make this in a food processor, absolutely, but I want to show you the traditional way. You can do the same thing and sort of drizzle oil slowly as you go along. We're just about ready. It's a little rough, but that's fine. You want those little specks of anchovies on the sizzling steak, and it really makes a harmony of flavors. Okay, let's put this on the side. Let me just check on the steak here. Looking good. This is my son Joe, and not only he is my son, but he is my business partner, and a very good business partner at that. We run together, Lidia, Becco, Frico, and Lidia's Kansas City. About 8 years ago, right, you decided to leave Wall Street, and he says, Ma, I'm really not happy down there. And I said, what are you going to do? And he says, well, I think I'll hang around the restaurant. And I got worried there for a moment, but let me tell you, it's been a great relationship. And it's not always easy. You know, I had my apprehension. I said, gee, what am I going to be, a mom or a partner? But somehow, you know, when it comes from the heart, it comes right. And I think his strength is really wine, and he loves wine, so much so that we bought a vineyard about a year ago in Friuli, and we're going to play a little bit around with that. But Joe, what are you doing here?
Well, today I thought with the luscious, juicy steak from Toscana, we would have a zippy, peppery fruit bomb Chianti Classico. Chianti Classico is made with Sangiovese grape in the zone in the hills of Chianti between Siena and Florence. And actually, Chianti was one of the many wines of Italy that, being red, there's actually white grapes in it. It's made of 10% Cannellini traditionally. So it's a red wine made of some percentage of white grapes. Today's Chiantis, though, are made with more international new varietals, generally 90% Sangiovese and Merlot, Cabernet, or Syrah.
You know, they're really great. A Chianti is supposed to be fresh fruit, and yet you feel that sort of spiciness, a pepperiness, almost like the Tuscan oil, which has a pepperiness at the end. And I really think it will go great with the steak. But Joe, before, you were sort of swiveling the glass.
We're just rinsing out the stemware just to prevent any imperfections in the glass to affect the wine. So we rinse through and then we taste.
Let me tell you, if you want to impress your friends, it's called svinare. He's modest, but I'll play it up. It's called svinare. And what you're doing, actually, you have a glass, and should there be any impurities of flavor from soap or for whatever, you rinse it and you throw it out. And then you pour your wine so that your guests really get the full flavor. Now, let's just analyze it a little bit.
It's got a very musky nose. Cooked cherries, raspberries, very, very fruity. Chianti should be a wine that's very, very easy to drink, very, very forward, very pleasurable, very much a fruit bomb. And the Chiantis that are being made today, especially in Chianti Classico, are just that, a great expression of what the Tuscan sun has to offer in its ripening of Sangiovese.
Chin chin, in anticipation. Great choice, Joe. This is going to be great, this steak. And this is the mother part. Well, we are ready for il momento grande, the grand moment. The steak should be ready. The beans have been simmering and have been sitting actually. We simmered before and have absorbed the oil, the salt, the rosemary flavor. And you get the sense that this is a real sort of rustic meal. I have some nice Tuscan bread here, and I'm just going to throw it on the grill, and while I cut the steak up, this will be nice and toasted. So come with me. Looks so good. Okay, we are ready to brush the steak with the rub. And think about that there's no salt on the steak, so a nice abundant amount, and it sort of melts right in the steak. And you will always get it served this way in Tuscany. It will always be sliced. And this size here is enough for about 4 hungry Italians, but even six people. 2 slices each, and that's Leave the tail. Just a little bit more of a little more olive oil. Again, for that flavor, and then this will remove, of course, as they're eating it. Just okay. Let me check the bread. Just let me give it a little brush, the Tuscan olive oil. You know, if I was ever sorry that you're not here with me, really here with me, I know you're with me over there, but here with me is to share the steak with me. The Bistecca Fiorentina, it is really wonderful, and I'm going to taste it. So this is the filet portion. Let me take a nice piece, and it's still sort of very rare, and of course the sides, and let me go right to the middle because I want to show you. And this is the steak part, and this is how they eat it rare, sometimes even a little rare. Some beans. It is so delicious. The saltiness, the anchovy, you don't taste the anchovies. They just sort of accent, bring out the flavor of meat and the mellowness of the beans. And a little wine now. Delizioso. Do you still have room for dessert? Well, I do, but this is kind of a light dessert and actually is fun. And what we're going to do, we're going to do caramelized tomatoes served over vanilla ice cream. That's simple. You blanch and peel the tomato. Now, you know how to do that? You take the tomato, you just cut a little bit out, open it up, throw it in boiling water, pick it up, leave it there about a minute, not even, fish it out, and dunk it in ice water. And the skin will just sort of pop out, and you peel it. And then you cut it in half, and you remove all of the seeds. And leave it in half like that. Let me get the caramel going. And caramel is basically sugar and just a little bit of water to begin the caramelization. And I'm not gonna, just gonna wanna get everything wet. And I'm not gonna even touch it. It's gonna sort of caramelize itself. And while the caramel is going, what I did here for decorations, this is so simple, and I'm going to put a little bit of Grand Marnier, a little bit of orange juice, so it has that orange and tomato sort of flavor. I candied some orange rinds. Now, let me show you the three different things. This is just dried orange rind, and that's wonderful. That could be a nice decoration. This is orange rind that's been cooked in sugar syrup. Sugar syrup is water and sugar that has been boiled and really reduced to sort of a syrup, like a maple syrup consistency. To get here, these are cut a little bigger, you cook them in the sugar syrup. You cook them, and then you let them steep in that syrup, and then you drain them, and then you roll them continuously in a lot of sugar. And the sugar will adhere and absorb in the rinds. And they're really very nice. You can do orange like that. You could do lemon like that. Okay. Here is the caramello. And it's ready. And it's sort of going to harden up right away because you're adding fresh orange juice. It'll melt right back into a little bit of some orange liqueur. And you notice I'm not using any spoons because anything you put in there will stick to it. So just sort of work it full blast. And actually, while this is sort of condensing itself, I'm going to go get the ice cream. I had the plate also in the freezer this way because this is hot and all that, so you really don't want the ice cream to melt immediately. Could you do it over sorbet? It would go very good also with a nice lemon sorbet if it's really hot in the summer. Okay. This is a little overcooked, but that's perfect. I'm just going to... I really don't want the tomatoes to cook. They're going to be cooked by the intense temperature of the syrup itself. So by the time I'm finished with the ice cream, it's going to be perfect. I want you right there. Clean it up a little bit. A little bit of mint. You would never think of put this combination together, would you? Well, it really goes very well together. It's a wonderful harmony. It's the creaminess, the sweetness, the intensity of caramel, the tartness of, and the unexpected flavor of tomato in a sweet context. So, let me taste some. It's delicious. The tomato, it's almost like an orange tomato, if you can imagine that. What a wonderful send-off to our trip to Tuscany. So as we say at my house, tutti a tavola a mangiare, una tavolata toscana. Today, it's a Tuscan table in my home, so please come in.